Hey, Monica, did you know it's now even easier to listen to Round the Hay Bale podcast?
What? Really? How easy?
That's right. All you have to do is say, Alexa, play Round the Hay Bale podcast.
Playing Round the Hay Bale podcast on Apple Music.
Ooh, we're really fancy now.
Tune in to Round the Hay Bale every Monday at 9 a.m. Central Time.
Grab a cup of joe and let's gather round that hay bale. With your hosts, Anne from Andale Homestead, Cayce from Ormsby Farms, Monica from Bland's Promised Land Ranch, and Sandi from Suburban Homesteader, Wyoming, Arizona. Here they are. Hey, y'all, hey.
And hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're joining us. Today, I'm Anne with Andale Homestead, and we're glad to have you here.
Hey, everyone, it's Cayce over at Ormsby Farms.
And it's Monica from Bland's Promised Land Ranch.
And Sandi from Suburban Homesteader, Wyoming, Arizona. Thank you for coming in and stopping to see us today. We have a topic today that is so fascinating. It's how to start your own apothecary. The herbs that you might use, the things that you might do. Now, we want to do a little note firsthand. If you're taking any kind of medicines, you're allergic to different things, please check with your doctor or herbal practitioner before you take any herbs for anything that you may be wanting to fix. We just want you to be careful and safe. And so today we are talking about what kind of things we need to start one. So Cayce.
So let me tell you, I was really excited about this because I've always wanted to kind of dabble. I'm going to start off by saying I'm not very knowledgeable at all at this kind of stuff. But I was super excited when we decided that we wanted to do this topic. So, of course, I did a handy dandy Google to find out a little bit more about herbs that we're growing in our garden and what they're used for. There's a lot of wonderful websites that you probably could Google. I'll leave a lot of the stuff in our show notes. But one thing that I pulled up and we found very interesting is the voted on top 10 must-have herbs to start your own home apothecary for natural wellness. Number one, which I didn't know, a couple of them I knew, but number one, dandelion. So dandelion, did everybody know about dandelion? That was a really good kind of
I did. Yeah. I love going dandelion hunting. It's like an Easter egg hunt.
What about Sandy? I was about to say, Sandi, Monica, am I just saying I don't know.
You can use every part of a dandelion. You can use the flower, you can use the leaves, you can use the root. So that's one of the top ones.
Okay, so with the dandelion, though, my question would be, if you have a reaction to the little, the end where it's bolted and it's going to seed, right? So my sister, when she was 2, she had the chicken pox. And my brother thought it would be really fun while she was outside, they were walking around outside, toddling around, and he blew all the dandelions at her, towards her face. Mm-hmm. And shortly after, her chicken pox that were mild broke into massive eczema swells.
Oh,
and ever since then, she realized that anytime the dandelions, the seed portion, it goes to seed and it's beautiful and it's, in the air and it's everywhere. Anytime she's around that, she actually has a massive allergic, eczema type reaction.
Oh my God.
So she doesn't go anywhere near dandelions, not even the regular flower part. So I always ask her, I'm like, maybe you should start trying to drink the tea every now and then to see if you can build. And she's like, I don't want to go near it.
Yeah, no, you don't want to push that limit.
I was like, you could go to the allergist, right? But she was like, no, I don't know. But she's never really gone near them. So I've always I knew there was a thing. I knew they were good. But for me and my family, we've always stayed away from them because of my sister's weird reaction to them.
Okay.
Well, I was reading on it because the woman that did this blog, which is very well put together, talks about flushing out toxins and excess water by using it in bitters. While the root is heptic herb for detoxifying your body, which, I mean, who doesn't need that when you feel like you've just been maybe eating stuff that you really shouldn't be eating, get all the nasty toxins out of your body by flushing it with dandelion. So that was very interesting. Number one was dandelion. Number two, which I had never heard of, y'all, ashwagandha. Now, Anne, you talked about it right before we went on.
I
So do
sure
you want to jump
did.
in first?
I have some ashwagandha. Now, what I did actually, I ordered it. I mean, I didn't grow it. I ordered it, and it's supposed to be good. It's supposed to be natural. But what I understood from ashwagandha that it allegedly helps calm your brain, it reduces swelling, it lowers blood pressure, and it helps your immune system. So I have that. I haven't used it yet, but I do have that in my apothecary because, well, for one thing, who doesn't need brain clarification? But I also suffer with a little high blood pressure, and my immune system with the autoimmune stuff certainly needs a boost on that. And I have it in powder form, and I'm sure I also purchased some blank capsules that I could potentially put it in capsules to take each day. And Sandy, do you know anything about ashwagandha?
Well, I have some in my herb cupboards. Joe kind of calls me a witch doctor. In these cupboards, there's all kinds of mason jars all over with different herbs in there. It's not one that I have used. For me, when you start an apothecary, I think you need to look at what you may need in the future. It's easy to give lists of, put this and put this and put this, but you don't want to waste your money either. Is that something that, this herb does these things? Is that something that's going to be relevant for me or my family?
Right. Yes.
So like for me, that list says dandelion is the top, but for me, yarrow is by far if you could only grow one herb, it would be yarrow. They actually say that yarrow is like 120 medicines in one.
Oh, wow.
And you can use the flowers, the leaves, the roots. You can make salves, lotions, teas. Literally in the Civil War, they would pack yarrow leaves into wounds to stop the bleeding.
Oh my goodness.
There's a lot of things that it does, and it grows in such a wide zone from 2 to 9. So a lot of people can grow it. I'm pretty sure you can buy online essential oils that are yarrow, but it's good for your, just all kinds of coughs, digestions. It's something that you can make a tea and drink every single day.
Wow. I am going to plant some this afternoon. I think I have some yarrow seeds.
I was just about to say that. I think I do too in my little handy dandy seed book.
I have yarrow. I got from my friends over at Two Doves Bees and Gardens. I got some yarrow from a yarrow plant from Sarah over there, in the fall or something. And it's like in a little pot. And I keep thinking, where do I want to actually put this in the ground? Because I want to put it in the ground, but I'm so afraid I'm going to put it in the ground and it's going to like die on me because I'm not going to put it in the right spot. But it's this nice, beautiful plant. It started to die back at one point and then it came back to life. And I was so happy because I had read that it was a very wonderful, amazing medicinal plant. And so like Sandi was saying all the things that I was getting really excited here because I was like, I've been doing research on when to use it, how to use it, what to do with it. Do I make a tincture with it? Do I dry the leaves? How do I use it? So I've been kind of compiling this research. I think.
And how do you use it?
I don't know.
Well, like if you were hiking and you cut yourself, the yarrow grows everywhere in the United States. You could literally put it on the wound, wrap it, and it would stop the bleeding and would help with the process of healing.
Oh my.
I like it in tea,
Okay.
And you can make teas. If you had a fever, that's one of the ways I've used it. You make a tea and it helps lower the fever.
Awesome.
Wow.
it's just one of those things. There's just so many good herbs. And so you can literally grow your own outdoor pharmacy.
And that's what, when things got crazy in our country and things were shutting down and so forth, and our medication, because we weren't able to get it, were backed up at the factories and things, I began to think, I better make sure I have my own homemade medicine cabinet. And so I did begin to collect herbs. I grew a lot of them, dehydrated a lot of them, and things like that. But even when I was not able to grow them, I was able to purchase them as of right now. But I think it's so important that we have these things, and I need to grow some yarrow and put it in my to-go bag.
Well, I think that speaks to a lot what Sandi said, right? So you can have a list. Like Cayce was like, okay, how am I going to kind of figure out how to start this apothecary? What do I do? Most of us will go to Google or wherever, and we start a list. We just want to go with the basics, right? Give me a list. I'm a list person. If you give me a list of the top 5 things, I'm going to go out there and get them.
Yeah.
But in this case, the best thing may be to, like Sandi said, start with what you're going to use, what you would need. What type of medicinals do you use or do you need on a regular basis? I have young kids, so I do inevitably have fevers. I don't want to go to the traditional fever remedies. I like to use some more natural things. So look for things that would solve those medical problems that you have, or maybe the things that you would combat. Does that make more sense? I mean, go to what you would use or what you would go to for your health.
I like that.
I agreed. And I think that should be a perfect time to, like we used to do on the podcast, play a little round robin and go to each person and what would be the number one thing that you would have in your startup herb apothecary witch doctor shelving. So we've said yarrow. One thing that I am knowledgeable about, because it helps me with my anxiety when I have all those stuff that I need to do, is chamomile. And chamomile is on there. It calms me down. Chamomile tea. It's kind of like one of those, Cayce, chill out, homie, chill out kind of herbs. And I will grow it to the end of time because it really, really does bring everything down and calm me down. So besides that, Sandi, I'll go to you next. I'm going to pick on you next. What would be, besides yarrow, because you did say yarrow, what would be your number one herb that you must have in your apothecary witch doctor's area?
Well, echinacea is a good one to have. A lot of people are familiar with that name. I grow them in my gardens. It's anti-inflammatory, antibacterial. There's a lot of research done on echinacea. But then I have to know, if I'm growing it in my yard, what do I harvest and when do I harvest it? Like with echinacea, a lot, you can use the root, of course, but you can use the flower, but you don't pick the flower until after the seeds mature. And that's when you use that part of the echinacea. So you have to know those things. But I think echinacea would be good. You can make wash wounds with it. You can make a tea with it. It helps with flus, colds, strep throat, things like that. So I think that would be, in fact, I have it in my cupboard. So yeah.
That's awesome.
What about you, Anne?
Well, it's kind of putting me on the spot here just a little bit, but I think really what I use the most on a daily basis, and sometimes multiple times during the day, is cayenne pepper. I take cayenne pepper shots in the morning and sometimes in the evening. And it allegedly helps with blood pressure. It helps clear your blood so that it gives you some energy and clarity and it makes me feel better when I do that. And I just went to my physician yesterday. I had just a regular checkup. I had been having some issues with my blood pressure shooting up, and it was great. It was terrific because I've been doing the cayenne pepper shots. So that's mine. How about you, Monica?
Okay, so one that I think that I know that I need to grow, but I don't, but it's something that I use on a daily basis almost, is calendula. we have a lot of kids. We always get any type of skin irritation. We have eczema, we have bruising. We almost always have calendula. Now, I don't have it grown and using on my own right now, but it's something that's in my list of I need to grow this, and I need to actually grow it and learn how to make my own calendula ointments and salves and stuff, because I buy a calendula ointment that I use for my kids all the time, and they are almost always using that or arnica. They're the two things that I have in my drawer that my kids will go to, and they know. If it's an open wound, you use calendula. If it's a closed wound and it's a bruise and an inflammation, you use arnica. So they're the two. I mean, really, calendula is probably the one I should grow, and I am definitely needing to grow because I use it all the time, and just in general, my kids.
I'm not familiar with arnica at all.
Yeah, so arnica, the arnica plant or the flower in general, I use an arnica, which is an arnica like a lotion, and we use it for it's great for bruising and inflammation. My son broke his nose a couple years back, about 10 years ago. He had a massive injury to his nose, and we had been told about arnica, and I was like, yeah, I don't know. Well, the surgeons told him, they're like, look, he's going to have huge black eyes. He crushed his nasal passages. He's going to have black eyes for sure. And my friend was like, go get arnica cream. Go get the arnica cream. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. All I can find is the gel. You can't put it by their eyes. And she's like, trust me. Well, we put it by his eyes. It was like, because it has alcohol in the gel. And so it evaporated very quickly. He put it all around his eyes, all around his nose area. There was no open wounds. Okay. It was only solid, but they were warning us it was going to be swelling. He put it all over his face, underneath and around, and he never bruised. Not a single bruise. I couldn't believe it. So he had 2 surgeries after that, follow-up surgeries to rebuild his nasal passages so he could breathe clearly. 2 nasal passage surgeries, like full nose jobs, basically. As soon as he had them, we immediately went right to the arnica gel, arnica cream. We found they had cream after a little bit of time, and we used that. And I'm going to tell you what, he has never had black eyes. 2 surgeries and 1 complete, like, actual injury.
Wow.
I'm writing that down.
I know. I was about to say, I'm over here Googling.
Yeah. Anytime my kids have, even when they get ant bites, because we have really nasty reactions to ants, fire ants, my kids immediately go to the arnica, believe it or not, because it helps with the swelling immediately. And it helps with the pain that they would feel from the ant bites. And Eric gets really bad reactions to it. So we alternate between calendula, which is for anytime we open scratches or wounds, we use calendula. And if it's anything that's still in the closed skin, we use arnica, because it is amazing. And I do have arnica seeds. I just haven't planted them yet. And I want to be knowledgeable about that. And I want to learn more so that I can plant them. Sandi, have you ever grown arnica? Do you know about arnica?
Well, I do know what it is. I haven't ever grown it. But think, as we're talking about growing, Monica wants to grow these different ones, and Cayce I want to grow more. We have to make sure that we're building our soils up, that it's not a matter of adding fertilizer. You want that soil to be rich when you're growing herbs. And a lot of the herbs that we grow are perennials, so that we can use them for years and years once you've got them started. And so I think that's an important thing, that, you're growing them, and so that you can have that prevention versus treatment, because some things you can just take every day just to build up your immune system.
Right. Now tell me again about the soil, because I do struggle.
I was just about to ask that too. Yes.
I do.
Okay. So say you have an area that you want to grow these herbs, right? Mm-hmm. Make sure that you're adding organic material, composting before you ever plant them, because a perennial, especially a perennial herb, the first 2 years is really getting established. It's the 3rd year that it is huge, and it's really producing. Though that's not to say that you can't take some of the plant off. You just have to be careful those first 2 years. And so you want to make sure that once you've planted it, it's mulched around so it stays moist. And sometimes you'll plant a herb one place, it doesn't like it. Don't just be willing that, okay, it doesn't like it here. Let's move it to another part of my yard.
Gotcha.
So.
Oh, that's so interesting. I just figured I just didn't have the talent. And so it's nice to know that I can fix that part.
Well, now my question on that same kind of note is, what have you noticed, Sandy, the herbs do better in? Is it raised bed or is it in the ground? Because I know that there are some plants that prefer to be in the ground and don't like raised beds, because I think all of us are getting sent some fun stuff from Vigo Gardens, and it would be a wonderful thing to be able to have my beds that I'm graciously being sent as like my start medicinal pharmacy area. So are they good for raised beds or herbs, or are they kind of temperamental when it comes to raised beds?
No, I think see, we live in different climates. Like
Yes.
I have a very cold winter. So that's why I have to be a little more careful on a raised bed. Though with my new Vigo garden, I did plant lemon balm on the ends of both of them. So I'll let you know next year how that is. But if you can be protected, if you live in the north, you'll be fine in a raised bed. You guys, the rest of you guys are in the south, and you shouldn't have any problem at all, through your winter.
Right.
But I honestly do grow most of mine in the ground just because of our winters.
Okay.
Oh, that's good to know.
Okay, so here's my next question. What happens if you are in an apartment or you're in a place where you can't grow a lot of these herbs, right? You can't grow a lot of these medicinals. You want to start your apothecary, but how do you start? There may be another option for you. Sandy, have you ever went foraging for your medicinals or for your herbs that you can use in a medicinal way? I know that that's an option. And I think that if people have knowledge, right? If they have the proper books and the proper skill level, you can go out and actually forage for these wild medicinals, because they are kind of growing all around us, aren't they?
That's true. I think you have to be careful. First of all, you don't want to ever take plants that are by a dirt road.
Okay.
Or any kind of road, really, because there's a lot of salts that they might put on there. They might spray by the edges of the road. So you don't want to take any kind of herb that you're going to ingest, or plant that you're going to ingest, because not everything is an herb that is helpful. Just be careful. But knowledge is really your power, because there are things that look like one thing that are something else. I think I would more recommend going through a reliable source online to buy those dried herbs. There's a lot of good ones. Mountain Rose is one that I use a lot.
I'm writing that down. Mountain Rose.
Yeah. Bulk Herb store is another one. Whatever company you want to buy from, just do some research. Make sure that they're a reputable company, that they have good reviews. They don't have anything at the Better Business Bureau saying, hey, there's some things that are questionable.
Okay.
And then you can buy those dried herbs. They usually come vacuum sealed, so that if you're not opening them right away, they'll store a long time for you. So those are benefits.
Okay, so two things. One, once I get my herbs, let's just say I'm going ahead. I bought from Mountain Rose as well. I love that company. So I'm definitely on board with that. So I'm not foraging. I'm not going out. I really don't have time for all that. I would rather just go online and get some herbs from a reputable place. I buy my herbs. I bring them home. I crack that baby open, and I only use a half of a bag. Then can I take my herbs and put them in a mason jar, vacuum seal that mason jar, or put it in another sealable bag and then put it in a cool, dark place?
Of course you can, but a lot of the herbs anymore that you get, it's resealable. And so you can use the straw technique and suck out the air.
Okay.
But a mason jar, honestly, in my cupboard, most things are in mason jars.
Okay,
Just
that's where
I
I'm
can
going.
tighten that up and suck all the air out, and it will last you a very long time.
Okay.
And I think a lot of us also have that jar sucker in our Amazon storefront. So if anybody's looking for those, I absolutely love mine. It is my best friend in the kitchen when I have dried stuff. But on that same line, Sandy, we're all kind of like drilling Sandy with questions. When do you decide to start with getting your apothecary set up? Say you want to make tinctures, or say you want to make salves. Which herbs are the best to do it? Fresh or dried? Because I know that for some of them, you really shouldn't put dried herbs in the oils, correct? It should be the fresh herbs that go in there. Is that correct, or no?
No, not necessarily. Most of the salves that I do, I use my dried herbs with it.
Oh, that's awesome.
It just depends on what you're making, what the recipe calls for. So, and there are some good recipes out there. I went downstairs because I have a lot of herb books, right? And I'm trying to look at which one that I should, we're going to have this talk. What would be helpful?
Yes.
I had almost 70 herb books down in my library.
Woohoo!
Oh,
I was
wow.
like,
Whoop,
I
whoop.
don't have that many. But I mean, your library is a great source. Your extension office is a great source.
Yes.
Use the resources that are free around you. When you go to find a recipe online, make sure you look at multiple recipes. Don't just take the first one. See what other things they're adding. Like almost always when I do any kind of cream or salve or lotion, I add licorice root, because in Chinese medicine, they add licorice root because it enhances all the other herbs. It makes the other herbs more powerful. So that's just something I do. But
Mind completely blown again. If only the audience could see our faces on the screen.
Because we're like, I want to do that. I want to do that.
Does anybody do tinctures in here? Because I will say I did not make my own, but there was a woman at the farmer's market that I buy from, and I started using the oregano tincture or oregano with the proof 100 proof, and I started doing that because, as we were talking off screen, I have terrible teeth. I have always had bad teeth, and I hate to have to keep on going on antibiotics because there's an infection or something. So I decided I would talk to this woman one day at the farmer's market, and she said, oregano, that's what you need. Try my oregano tincture. It's like an all natural antibiotic. And I said, well, how do you use it? And she said, you can put a couple drops underneath your tongue. Be prepared because, it is 100 proof alcohol. I'm a professional, so I wasn't too worried about that. But I put the drops in a water bottle. And for 2 weeks, I did that every single day. I put the 3 drops in my water bottle, shook it up, and drank it. I'm telling you, my mouth feels better. I don't feel like my gums are inflamed the entire time, which is what I felt. I felt pain all the time in my gums when I would brush and all that kind of stuff. So I love tinctures now, but does anybody else use tinctures, and what do you use them for?
I made goldenrod tincture. And goldenrod tincture is good for quite a number of things. It helped with inflammation and things like that, allegedly. But my husband got an amazing result from that. And all he does, I have it in a little the brown jars and things. He just dips his spoon in it on his last cup of coffee and then stirs his coffee with it. He doesn't use several drops. Now, when I used it, it had an effect on my thyroid. So I couldn't use it. It made me feel worse, in other words. So you do have to be careful. I had studied it and it didn't say it had anything to do with that, but it didn't work for me. But yes, tinctures and making vinegars and all kinds of things like that. Yes, I've certainly done that. Have you done that, Monica?
Okay, so I have made tinctures. I just am too afraid to actually follow through with it. So I'm the person that puts it all together, follows the video, puts it in the cool, dark place and leaves it. And then 3 years later, Eric's like, hey, we got 3 jars up here with alcohol and some green stuff. Are you going to do anything with this? And I'm like, yeah, later. Yeah. And I basically have tinctures that I've never followed through with, but I use them all the time. Meaning my kids have supplement drops that we have we have all kinds of stuff that we use here tincture wise that I purchase online that I get from my holistic doctors. We have been using tinctures for years. My kids are used to it whenever it's the season of sickness, which I call school year season, because basically kids are sick from September to May. Yeah. So during a normal, public school year, my kids and other kids will get sick. So we start with our extra heavy duty tinctures. I just used one the other day. I was just talking to somebody. It's called the toothache tincture. because my kids get ulcers and things. And it's actually a tincture made with peppermint oil, clove bud oil, and omega-3 and 9. It's got a couple omegas. Anyway, I would think it's a tincture if you would. And we just kind of apply it locally because it kind of numbs. But we do take tinctures under the tongue, and we use that stuff all the time. My kids are knowledgeable in that now. They know that there are certain things I'm going to be like, all right, under the tongue. And we do it under the tongue because that's one of the, quickest way to absorb that tincture in the tongue or on the cheek. We do it there. But my kids know we are doing tinctures. 'Tis the season for that. But we use them a lot here. I just am not the person to follow through and make it like I should. So.
Well, Monica talked about what she calls a toothache tincture. Well, I make a toothache tincture that's actually from the toothache plant.
I am growing that right now. I just don't know how to use it.
I put the flowers when they're the flowers are full bloom, and I put those in the alcohol, and then I shake it every day. And then eventually I will strain it after a few weeks because it does numb your mouth. But the other thing that we found out was that Joel he had golfed and pulled kind of his shoulder muscle. And I said, what if we try that toothache tincture and just rub it into your skin?
Mm-hmm.
It was amazing. And I just thought, well, if it numbs your mouth, why wouldn't it numb into your muscle? And it worked good for us. And so we have a lot of tinctures that we use. Yes.
That's awesome.
That's great.
I'm so excited. I love tinctures too. I just need to learn how to do them. But y'all, we are wrapping up on our time. This has been so much fun. And of course, I'm sure we could probably talk about tinctures and salves and all of that kind of stuff for another 6 hours. But if you want to hear us talk more about it, we hope you join us Friday on our Hey Y'all Hey live radio show. We'll have more and we'll get to talk and you'll get to see our excitement when we talk about it. But we want to thank y'all for tuning so much in to this 5th season. We're having so much fun digging deep into these topics. And we hope you join us next week for another episode. Until then, we hope you take care of yourself and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye, y'all. Bye.
Are you enjoying the Hay Bale topics? To learn more, click on the LinkTree link to get all our product recommendations along with discount codes and more.